All right, I got another one for you guys. It's been a while since I've done one of these dev updates, and probably a lot of you guys don't even know I've been working on games in this whole time. This past year has been really rough. I haven't had a lot of time to devote to writing games, to working on these ideas. I have done some things, but I haven't done nearly as much as I would have liked. But that does seem to be changing, and over the coming months, I'm going to be getting a fair amount more time to devote to this. So I'm hoping to make some progress and get some things done here. So I wanted to show you guys these two games that I'm working on. Get your feedback if you have any ideas for me or suggestions or recommendations. Let me know in the comments, and let me know if you love it or hate it or what have you. Any feedback at all is great to know, just to have an idea of where I should go from here. But without further ado, let's just jump right in and we'll look at this first game first. Now, this is a space-themed survival game. The idea here is that you're stuck on a ship and you're jumping from planet to planet, and you have to gather the resources to keep the ship fueled up, to keep yourself in like water and oxygen and that kind of stuff, and food. And the story would unfold as you go from planet to planet, and things will basically unlock with the ship. The backstory is, in fact, really closely related to this title screen. This title screen is very simplistic. It's all done with simple geometry. I'm going to make this a lot nicer before the game actually comes out. But mostly this is just to give me some inspiration to keep going with the game and keep focused on the things that are important to the game. But you can see, you kind of see this ship off in the distance. It pops up on your sensors, and all of a sudden your ship comes to life, and sensors start, scrolling out information. Lights start lighting, and all of a sudden you see the monitor come up and you can see the scans of the ship. So that is the ship you end up getting stuck on. So you go over to investigate. You're on the ship, and it just flies away, and it starts going from planet to planet. You have no idea where it came from or where it's going or what its purpose is. But through the course of the story, you kind of figure all those things out. And also through the course of the story, you start unlocking features of the ship, and the idea is to try and survive long enough that you can get this ship turned back around so you can get back home. And that's the main mission. But you're going to find a lot more backstory of this ship during the course of that mission, and really see that story unfold. And that's kind of the general idea of the game. I don't want to give away too much of the actual story that I have so far, but that's the general principle of it. And so that's kind of the mechanics. So the reason why I think it's simpler is you're going to have a limited amount of time on each of these planets, so they don't have to be like a fully featured planet, like coast to coast rendered, for you to explore it. It can be a fairly small radius compared to that that you're limited to, because you can't get very far without having to get back to the ship. So I think I can do that fairly simplistically. Kind of use some procedural generation, some stuff made by myself, and kind of mixed between the two, to come up with a solution for each of those planets. And, then you're also on the ship. So that's a fairly simple set of models that need to be dealt with. And I think I could do that and build a fairly compelling game with some good mechanics. But you know me, I'm fun focused. I'm fun first. So if it's not fun, it's not going to go in the game. And that's kind of where I'm primarily focused on this, is to make sure that those mechanics are a lot of fun to play. So if it's not fun, it's got to change. So then, theoretically, those mechanics might change dramatically from here to release date. But that's kind of what I got so far. So that's the idea for this game. And like I said, let me know what you guys think, because this one is in its very, very early stages. So feedback would be greatly appreciated. So that's the first one. So we can go to the second one here. And the second one, maybe some of you guys know about this one. I don't know for sure if you do or not. But this is the farming game, and this has been cooking for a good long while. I don't know if I've ever shown this prototype particularly, but I have a ton of different prototypes for this. A ton of different projects that I kind of built out to, spec out certain features of this game and get an idea of how they would work. And now I'm kind of going through each of those prototypes and pulling out those usable good bits, and kind of amalgamating them into one unified project. And I've been really focused on this one particularly because this one has all of the farm implements, and they're built pretty nicely in this game. I also like the tractor in this. It's a simplistic concept. There's another tractor I've got that definitely feels more like a tractor to me, and I want to kind of take the code from this and the code from that and put those together to something in the middle, because that initial model, I mean, that thing is spec'd out down to each of the gear ratios and the horsepower of the engine and the whole 9 yards. I mean, everything is down to the absolute nitty gritty of every little aspect. And I don't think I need to go that deep to make a compelling tractor that behaves like a tractor, that feels like a tractor. But again, this one is much simpler, and it doesn't quite feel the right way. So I want to make sure I get something in the middle between the two. That said, this one's not too bad, and it definitely works for testing out these implements, and that's the important bit. I have been working on these implements this past week, or actually 2 weeks, to try and make some improvements and fix some bugs. So I wanted to show you guys that, because I think I did show this many months ago, but I'll give you guys an update. So each of these is kind of, this is almost fully implemented in terms of animation and mechanics. It doesn't have the interactability with the fields, because the field mechanics is actually a different prototype. So I have to get the fields and these implements together so that I can kind of get the interaction between the crops and the implements to work properly. But that's kind of the next step at this point. And the general idea of this game is kind of a middle ground game. So talking about farming games in general, you kind of have two categories. You have the 800-pound gorilla in the room, which is farming simulator, where it's the latest and greatest, the best of all the equipment. It's all licensed. It's all like actual brands, and it's all, brand new stuff. And then you have like effectively Stardew Valley or similar games like that, where it's you and a rake and a shovel against the world, and that's about all you get. Now, there's been a lot of, Stardew Valley is a massively successful game, and there's been a lot of games built very similarly to that, both in the 2D pixel art, and they've also done a bunch of 3D games that are very Stardew Valley-esque in their mechanics, and I want to get something in the middle of that. I don't want it to be, latest and greatest shiny equipment where you're hiring out things and, kind of detached from your crops. And I don't want it to be so primitive, like, using a shovel all the time. So this is kind of my happy medium, where the tractors, the implements, everything is kind of focused on the 30s till about maybe the 70s. Mostly the 70s would be the tractors, because I like the muscle tractor era. I think those are really cool. And, the implements are more 30s, 40s, maybe 50s. So that's kind of the era of, I would call that the golden age of farming. It was where mechanization was innovating, but you weren't to the point of driving this massive, 200 horsepower, 300 horsepower monstrosity that has, thousands of pound-feet of torque, towing these 16 bottom plows and just over like hundreds or thousands of acres. It was more connected. It was more smaller plot. It was more simplistic. It was more connected to the crop, more connected to the farm, more connected to the land, I think. And all of the implements were really centered around your tractor. You didn't have these newer pieces of gear where it was a dedicated vehicle with dedicated equipment on it, like you have now. It was more like, your tractor was the heart of the farm, and everything went around the tractor to make things happen. So if you wanted to pick corn, a corn picker was actually a piece of gear that formed around the tractor. Like, you bolted it around the tractor, and it would actually have, this piece that swooped out in front and divided the rows, the left and the right row, and picked the corn out, and it went around you as you're sitting in the seat and into an elevator that tossed it into a trailer. So it was all bolted around your tractor. Same thing with, harvesting grains or what have you. You had a tow behind harvester, and it wasn't a separate piece of gear. You towed it behind your tractor. So I wanted to kind of focus on that. It is going to be set in a fictional world, so the tractors are not real tractors. They're not branded or anything like that. So I have some artistic license there, and I want to take some of those liberties with the designs, but by and large, it's going to be very focused on that, 30s, 40s, 50s era of farming. So, needless to say, let's just talk about the stuff that I've done recently, which is the implements. And we're going to start with this wagon here. So, I think when I first showed this, it was a little buggy. And when you attached it, like the blue blocks would actually like fly around. And that is no longer the case. I'm going to keep this a little further away so it jumps to you. And I think I'm going to cut that distance down in the real game for where you can attach it. But it does serve a good purpose here where you can really see what's going to happen when it jumps from where it is to where it needs to be. So if we just attach it, it jumps, but none of the physics glitches out or does weird stuff. And now you can basically just drive it around, and it works just like a trailer. I mean, the physics are active and accurate, and you can see, it just works like a trailer. So if you want to learn how to back up a trailer, this would be a good simulator for that, because, it's your typical left to go right, right to go left kind of mechanism. So, if you're steering around, you can you just kind of keep it balanced and not let it go too far like that. If you let it go too far, you end up jackknifing, and that's never fun. So it works fairly good. It is a simpler implement. It is just towed behind you. I was thinking about having like the back, maybe have like a tilt trailer so you can dump whatever's in it, but I haven't done that yet. That might be the next trailer I design, but I do have the mechanics for it now, thanks to that other piece of gear over there, which is what we're going to talk about next. So we'll detach from here and go over to the sickle bar mower. Now, this is another piece of gear from the 30s, really, was where it was popularized. And this is how you mowed your hay. And this is how you mowed your fields. And you would attach this to your tractor. And this is where the newer code that I've worked on comes in, which is some of the animations, some of the behaviors. So we've got now a hotkey that we can unfold it, and it'll drop that mower bar. And now you can activate it, and you can see it's going back and forth and ready to mow. So now you would just go through, and this is the next step, in fact, is to get the field mechanics working so that I can have this sickle bar actually mowing hay. So that's going to be the next step, is to get that working. And so there you go. And there's the sickle bar mower. And when you're done mowing and you want to put it back away, you can turn it off and it stops moving, and you fold it up. And then we'll just back it in here and detach it and drive away. So there you go. So that's basically the farming game. Like I said, I do have code for a better tractor, a much improved tractor. And I also have some code for the field mechanics. They're more graphics-based, shader-based, that I've done a lot of work in. So I'm trying to kind of put those all together with this implement code and kind of get everything unified. But I wanted to show off the implements because, this is going to be kind of what I was going back to. The tractor is the beating heart of the game. Well, the implements and the tractor are kind of the core of this game idea. And the implement code here, I think I really like it. The main benefit to this implement code is that it is shared. So the trailer and the sickle bar mower both share the same code. Not all of the same code, like some of that mowing mechanic is just on the sickle bar mower, but actually attaching and interacting with them from the seat of the tractor, that's all shared and fairly modular. And the idea is to make sure that this is a game that down the line I can make it moddable, so you guys can actually make your own mods for this game once it's out. So you can add your own equipment, add your own implements, add new tractors, whatever you want to do. And that would be, I don't know, I think that would be a fun little idea to kind of give you guys the power to make your own changes in the game and not make it so overly complicated. Like, you could take the basic parameters of this existing sickle bar mower and make your own model and make a new sickle bar mower that's like got a longer bar on it, or folds out faster, or whatever you have to do, without having to write a bunch of code to make that happen. So I think that would be great to be able to modify a game without having to know the code. But that said, there's also going to be the ability to write your own modules and actually expand on it even further and get even further into the weeds on the game. So that was the idea behind that. So that's what I've got so far. And those are the two games. So you can kind of see the farming game is very complicated. It's going to take a while to do. But I do think some of the space survival games mechanics could make it into this game, like especially the random terrain generation kind of stuff. I'm going to be probably sharing a lot of code between the two games for that. That said, I also have a house generator, a building generator for the farming simulator, and that would be very useful going forward because I want to make this game kind of big. I don't want it to feel very limited. I mean, ideally, I'd like you to be able to drive between towns. Which is one up on Farming Simulator, which is basically just one town with a bunch of farms in it. But I don't know. I don't know how far I want to go with that. And again, I am fun focused. I want a very fun experience. I want good, enjoyable mechanics. And if driving between different towns is gonna, detract from that, then I'm not gonna put it in. But I don't think it would. I think that would be a lot of fun. Be able to visit neighbor towns and be able to figure out what you want to sell and the prices in the neighborhood towns, and maybe you hire a guy to go do deliveries in the town over next to you because steak prices are going to fetch you a higher profit over there. So you send more steak over there and more hamburger here, and, kind of divide and conquer type of thing. I think that would be kind of neat. But yeah, that said, those are the ideas. Again, let me know what you guys think. Give me some ideas on where you think I'm at and whether these are good ideas or whatnot. Cause I would really appreciate the feedback. I can really use it. So, that's what I got for you guys. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you like these kind of things, subscribe to the channel and I will talk to you guys later.